Happy Sunday, SMITE fans, and welcome back to the SMITE Challenger Circuit playoffs here in the European region. We started our weekend with 8 teams. Now we're down to 4. And we'll be sending 2 of those to the SWC group stage in January. I'm J-Mac, joined by Inbound here on the desk. So get ready to jump into our final day for the EU circuit to see which of those 2 teams will be moving on up and towards the group stage. If you were watching out on that video, you can see that 2 different groups that these guys are going to be just jumping into in general over in January. A chance to either play against the Gladiators side of the bracket or against the Kings side of the bracket, I do believe, is kind of where these things break out. And we got some pretty powerful teams fighting up here. Our number 1 seed, Hex Mambo, still undefeated so far inbound. Haven't dropped a single game throughout this event just yet. Have looked like the nigh unstoppable team at this point, especially when you look over towards players like Johnny and Julio over on that team. Very excited to see how their match against Niflheim Wargs will go through. But that will be our second match of the day. Instead, we're going to be starting with the Solar Scarabs and the Yomi Tanuki, who have had a little bit more troubles so far on their sides of the bracket. So far, Hex Mambo and Niflheim Wargs haven't dropped a single set. That's why you see them over on the top side. Winner of that set qualifies the SWC, which it's the opposite for this one. Winner of this set moves on for a second chance and a last opportunity to qualify. Loser between the Tanuki and the Scarabs goes home. No chance at SWC group stage, no chance at their qualification. If you haven't been watching the event and you were wondering, well, who's on all of these teams? Well, we do have the rosters for both of our squads for our first match. For the Solar Scarabs, Deathwalker, Apreel, Zyrhoes, iSilenced, and Echrome round out the 5-man squad of the Scarabs. And then for the Yomi Tanuki, OgiBre, TheFrenchEmperor, Pikarino, Calvìn, and StreakUp to close things out for these ones. So, of these 2 teams, one of them, at least immediately on paper inbound, screams, wow, why are these guys fighting for elimination right now? It seems like the Solar Scarabs, with names like Deathwalker and Zyrhoes on the team, should be sitting right there at the top, but have had some struggles during the regular phase and have had a little bit of struggles during this event so far.
Yeah, I think this Scarabs team has dealt with a lot of turbulence so far in this second phase in general, and then also in this tournament. This is a long entire phase, like where this is the first leg of this like 3-leg to make it to Worlds, and this is just the final game for them to kind of make it through and go to that next game, or the next set of games with the SPL bottom 4 seeds versus the next top 4 SEC games. But this is where it starts. You have to win this one to be able to try one more time and win another one to even make it through. But if you lose here, you are out. So this is the do or die game that we have to build it up to be, because that's what it is for these teams. And as you said, there's a lot of veteranship on this Scarab side. Not really expecting to see Deathwalker, Zyrhoes down here. I think Apreel has also played unreal this entire tournament. And then Silenced Echrome, some more veterans in the game. On the opposite side, the Tanuki don't really have that. So I think that is the first thing that we have to point out with that. When you are facing elimination, you are, on this last game, does that veteranship hold up? Do you have that consistency to be able to, stretch it out one more set, one more game? And so far, just looking at this roster, I mean, I think they have it.
I mean, if you just talk about at least the history between these 2 teams in this phase alone, starting in the regular season of Phase 2 up until now, they've only played against each other once. If I'm not mistaken, that was a Solar Scarabs win over the Tanuki, so hasn't been many opportunities, at least for these 2 teams to face off against each other in regular play. Now, outside of scrims, that might be a different question as to how much these 2 teams have gone against each other. So really only what you can go off of is what they've been doing over the course mostly of just this event so far. I love what we've been seeing out of Yomi Tanuki. This has been a team that has not been afraid to play a little bit out of pocket more than anything. Pikarino going on to the Giannis a couple of times, really kind of disrupting the back line, really kind of playing that lone assassin style in the mid lane, as well as TheFrenchEmperor. I'm loving the semi-global style the Pixie's gone with. The Thors, the Ratatoskrs have looked really well, but he's also been able to go back to some of his more defaults like Nemesis and things like Susano.
And when I see this Yomi Tanuki team, I think of this duo lane. I think Calvìn, StreakUp, there is some veteranship there outside of, I mean, comparing it to like Deathwalkers and Zyrhoes, it's not that much veteranship, but they've been to these games before, they've competed before, and they've been playing really well this weekend, and I think this entire Tanuki team has been. They have dropped a couple games, yes, they have had their own turbulences, same with the Solar Scarabs, but the rest of that doesn't matter. This is where it starts. You could have been dropping your first 2 games and went out from here on. This is where it starts to matter. You need to start taking home these wins. And I mean, this Tanuki team, they lost in the regular season, but that doesn't matter here. This is the only game that will matter.
Yeah, this best of 3 is the real test between these two at the very least now. And then again, winner of this plays against the loser between Hex Mambo and Niflheim Works later for a last chance to qualify. So elimination now for a chance to qualify after we jump into the picks and pans for game 1 between the Scarabs and the Tanuki. And I think once we start getting to really the depths of these tournament style plays, you start maybe seeing some of the pushes away from just the standard meta bans. You see a lot of pretty much what's already just been good at the very least, but you also start to see what other mini metas develop between these two teams out here. Poseidon, Baba, and Mammon all targeting kind of that mid and even some solo jungle out on that side. Yomi Tanuki do take away Athena Yamoja for support, and then the top pick Puch. That leaves open Thoth, who's really kind of just risen up into the meta for a lot of these mid laners now.
And I think you highlighted perfectly. This mini meta that kind of comes out. If I would have told you coming into this weekend, Thoth is going to be the first overall pick in one of the elimination games, you probably would have called me crazy. And then the opposite side, Hachiman and Raijin. Raijin's had a lot of strength. Hachiman, not so much. It's more of a default kind of ADC, and that's fine. Sometimes that's all you need is this default ADC. And then on the opposite side, the next two picks for the Scarabs, this Ganesha, this Ishtar, a strong backline, some decent 2v2 in laning phase, something that looks like it wants to scale a little bit more. Ishtar does, play the early game, mid game a little bit better, but so far you look at this top 3 from the Scarabs, it looks like they're going a little bit more towards that late game.
And when you get to teams that are really this evenly matched, and I do have to stress and highlight just how even everybody outside of Hex Mambo and then the bottom 2 are. Yomi Tanuki, Solar Scarabs, and Niflheim Wargs all finished their regular phase 3 and 2, and it just became a triangle of who beat who in order to kind of qualify up into this point out here. So very evenly matched teams throughout the regular phase, and really just, I'd say even throughout this tournament, we've seen some very high highs and some lower lows from both of these squads. It will be a Kuzenbo, 4th pick for the Yomi Tanuki, maybe an interesting pick to see at that point. And then Susano Agni, maybe not the other expected, because we've been seeing a lot of Thoth mid, Agni mid. Haven't really been seeing a lot of either of those in solo though, Bobby.
Yeah, we've had maybe 1, maybe 2 games of this Agni, and that's who I think would go to the solo lane. And then, seeing the other side, this Ratatoskr has flexed even from solo to jungle. It's seen a little bit. So a bit of a different in comps for both of these teams. Scarabs going for a little bit more of that backline style double mage. Tanuki on the other side, this Rat solo, this Rat jungle, a little bit more dive. So mage is in solo lane for both teams, but Rat dives really heavy. Susano can kind of play both sides of it, where he can play frontline kill, kind of CC, whatever he needs, but Rat does prefer just full-on diving.
And I think maybe kind of adding the emphasis of this Solar Scarabs team being more of that late game scale with the Susano, a little bit of a tougher early game, takes a little bit to get online. The Ratatoskr, as soon as you have that level 5, impact can be known on the map. So it's down to these two teams. Elimination game on the line for both these throughout this set. Solar Scarabs versus Yomi Tanuki. We'll throw it over to our casters for game 1.
That's right. You got Judas, you got Alpha Jackal, and you have a very, very important game between the Solar Scarabs and the Yomi Tanuki. It's do or die here, as was mentioned by Bobby on the desk. It comes down to this for one of these teams, AJ, and man, I wouldn't like to be in this sort of game. It's got to be really, really nerve-wracking.
It is one of the worst feelings to be in this sort of game, but you have to get rid of those nerves. You have to make sure that you're going in here feeling confident, feeling like you're going to win this set 2-0. And, well, iSilenced and Calvìn, they're doing what they've been doing the entire weekend, which has just been going and it's stealing some minions away from these camps.
Yes, you steal the two sides, and then you just try to make it really, really awkward for everyone else involved. And both supports slapping each other a little bit there. Looks like Echrome, the overall winner on this Ishtar, will be happy enough. Ishtar, of course, with the best clears from the dual lane, so not too surprising to see them come through early. But one thing I wanted to point out, AJ, is yesterday we saw the Yomi Tanuki fall down 2-1 to the Niflheim Wargs. And the Wargs that day played extremely aggressively from minute 1, constantly in your face. Yomi Tanuki, however, now coming up against Solar Scarabs, who are more likely, at least, to play that sort of slower style of game. And I actually think that sort of pace maybe might play into the Tanuki's hands.
I think so as well. Like you mentioned, they like to play aggressive, like to play the early game, and they've got this very early game composition on their hands. It scales well into the late game too, but when you look at these sorts of picks, you think, oh, they're going to be strong in the early game. We need to be careful against this Ratatoskr, against this Kuzenbo, against this Raijin. So I think it stands to me in good stead to be able to try and force a few buff invades earlier on, maybe force some pressure onto these Silence a bit early on. And if the Silence are under pressure, that means Zyrhoes has to play back naturally because his jungler is supposed to just put in opposite directions of the map.
Yeah, of course, Zyrhoes, not one that we are accustomed to seeing getting involved too early either. So I think if you force that pressure to be, if you need to rely on some pressure to be relieved by your mid laner, Zyrhoes isn't always the type of guy you don't want to see. But in this sort of situation, when the chips are down and everything's on the line, you sometimes see the best come out of some people. So again, all this early pressure, not really spelling for either side. Beads used by Deathwalker then. OgiBre can keep churning out the damage, doesn't connect though, and that will not be a solo kill here. You certainly don't want to go down cheaply, again, at this high stakes of a match.
No, but that is Beads going to be down for the next 2.5 minutes. And if you're FrenchEmperor, you're thinking, well, might as well work my way over here, see what I can force at the second way. Deathwalker dashing in at the worst possible time, but apreel is here to cover.
Yeah, nearby is the Susano, able to just deflect any aggression, dissuade the Yomi Tanuki from going for that. I'm actually surprised to see the Tanuki not go for it. We've seen Raijin in particular in the solo lane have a lot of success invading the blue buff. It tends to be the blue buff invades happen and Raijin hits 5. It doesn't matter who's playing them, what side they're on. Raijin hits level 5 and then gets aggressive. But this time, not to be done. And like we said, high stakes matchup. No one wants to make any mistakes yet, so everyone just neat and tidily playing through these early stages.
Now, we will start to see some form of aggression, I believe, over here on this left-hand side. Look at FrenchEmperor. He is level 5 now on that Ratatoskr. Does have the blink, and he's making his way over to the duo lane to try and put some pressure onto this purple buff. But a great play from Echrome and iSilenced to recognize the fact that there is a rotation coming over. Calvìn was sort of giving it away a little bit by pressing up that aggressively, but they have dragged the purple buff back behind their tower to secure it for themselves.
Yeah, I can't think of anything more. Like you might as well flip your poker hand on the table when you've got 3 minions standing around you, giving vision to your entire team, and you're still saying, I'm happy to push up here. That just means there's got to be backup on the way, but backup now for the Scarabs as apreel comes over, gets that early purple invade, but now here comes FrenchEmperor dunking down onto iSilenced. There's the Dharmic Pillars and the Typhoon, knocks up all 3. That'll be the retreat action from the Scarabs with a small win on that purple buff.
And a meditation pop by iSilenced as well. apreel's going aggressive. StreakUp beats down. Great push, though, by Calvìn.
Oh, fantastic peel from Calvìn. Is it going to be enough? apreel needs one more shot. We'll get it. Now that is the first blood for the Scarabs. apreel now has to retreat. FrenchEmperor, no man to work with. Whoa! Out of nowhere comes the Spirit of the Nine Winds. They're now turning their attention to silence, but apreel back in again. Maybe now we'll get punished for it. There's no man to work with. One final dash. Matched out by the FrenchEmperor. 2 kills to 1 for the Tanuki.
Once again, Zyrhoes just a little bit late on that rotation, and that's one of the main things that Yomi Tanuki, I believe, can start to prey upon, is the fact that Zyrhoes, as you mentioned, does like to stay in that mid lane, does like to farm up a little bit, doesn't rotate too heavily, especially on picks like this Thoth. But it's going to go on to Pikarino here, misses this slow. And that's going to be a Pikarino out to AOK. Should have enough gold, to back for a Book of Thoth very shortly.
Yeah, and it's all about those important scaling items, right? We're not seeing these teams sit back for no reason. I think the Yomi Tanuki, that they pick up 2 kills happily, but they would have been pretty happy to just let all that go by and just farm up casually, because you really want to scale to the late game. We've seen Pikarino on this Kukulkan many times this tournament now, probably the 4th or maybe 5th time I've seen them play it. And, all we've seen from them is late game. Objective secures, hitting some massive Spirit of the Nine Winds. And we already saw one just in this game already on the left-hand side. So, Pikarino has felt confident on this pick. It didn't go so well yesterday. But, you need to just bring it back. You can't feel like one game decides how effective a god is. So, happy to see them go back to this god. And, the rest of the Tanuki as well, confident within it. But now, like we were saying, we're seeing it slow down just again to this slower farm style. Everyone wants to get their stacks online, get their items fully built up. And I don't expect to see too much action until this first Gold Fury.
I don't expect to see too much either. Like you mentioned, it's just going to be farming up for the most part, especially for Calvìn, still stuck at level 4, whilst iSilenced is actually level 7. Big disparity in the support department right now in terms of experience. 2.5 levels up is iSilenced, and he's going to be able to stack up this got thieves a lot quicker. In fact, they might be looking to try and catch Calvin out here. He's going to be rooted, he's going to be stunned, and it's going to be silenced, and that should be the kill on the turtle.
Yeah, a lot of trouble. Hold on, apreel now in some trouble. Goes to get aggressive onto StreakUp, who matches up with the mounted archery, but still gets knocked up. Hold on, whoa! Dragon flies by. Does not manage to connect this time. Pikarino actually might find himself in a tough spot. Has already used the speed boost to get over here. FrenchEmperor comes back in. There's the dash down from Echrome. Pikarino so low, but still has enough health. Hold on, Zyrhoes. Zyrhoes is looking for it. It's going to get called up by that team. Throws out the glyph. Finds one. Is it going to go for the ultimate? Just now has it. Not going to go for any more, but picks up one for the Scarabs.
He's got one, didn't quite find the other, but poor Calvin, he's just looking around to try and get some farm. He doesn't even get his own camp. It's been taken away by Zyrhoes right in front of his eyes.
Yeah, of course, no watery grave available for Calvin. That's what that ability does for you, right? As a Kuzenbo, if you find yourself surrounded, oh, never mind, I'm just going to rapid spin around a little bit and make sure that's not too much of a problem. But no, Calvin just hunting in the jungle for scraps, like a hyena in Africa, just trying to find whatever they can, but nothing available just yet, and instead it's the Scarabs finding success invading this harpy camp on the right-hand side.
That's going to go, it's going to be a split there between Zyrhoes and FrenchEmperor on that mid-harpy camp. It's now hit level 5, Calvin, so he has access to that water grave, some CC immunity, and some peel, which is good. Pikarino going to be targeted here, though. Great double pillars, but an even better slipstream.
Oh, there's the water grave coming out. Oh, fantastic block onto Echrome, who certainly has nowhere to go. And yeah, StreakUp will take that kill. Finally, Calvin able to, take over level 5 and immediate impact with that watery grave.
Just shows how impactful getting an ultimate really can be. I think Pikarino's going to drag the green buff all the way behind and between the tier 1 and tier 2 towers there, just because of the presence of iSilenced and Zyrhoes. No, hey, if that's me, I'm dragging it all the way to my Phoenix. If I see 3 of them running up at me, I know what Zyrhoes is like. Once he's at this point at level 10 with Thoth, once he has his first ability, that's how we're going to go pick Assault on max ability rank. He then has a switch flip inside of him. He will play aggressive. He will look to just try and poke you out, and he will farm up nicely. And it's even more impactful with that party punch that he's got as his recipe.
Silence now, in the middle of 2, but more than happy. I'm really not sure how this 3-level deficit has happened in the support role. Silenced has hardly been, hiding from the jungle. You tend to find this experience difference comes from how many waves a support has been soaking, right? But it hasn't been a lot of presence of this Ganesha in any particular wave. And I've seen Calvin, though, still feeling like they want to be aggressive. Not able to succeed with too much, but hold on. Oh, the Gold Fury from the Tanuki. What is the response like? It looks like the Scarabs smell it out. Actually, no, Echrome's just going for his purple buff now. Recognize the situation. Zyrhoes is there. As the final judgment charge, here comes the Spirit of the Nine Winds, and the Yomi Tanuki will take it. Pikarino absolutely on point with those secures all tournament long. Now, Silence gets the silence onto Calvin. Apreel on the backside. Nice double pull. Right into a double typhoon. Takes down the second. There's a third kill there if they want it, and they shall take it. 3 kills for Gold Fury. Solar Scarabs clap right back.
Oh, they're not done here. StreakUp, you might be in your tower, but you are not safe. There's 4 people around. And that's a quadra kill for Apreel.
Wow.
It's only 10 minutes into the day, Judas.
Well, 10 minutes in or 20 minutes in, or let's say several hours in when you get to the later games. If you make it that far, Apreel doesn't care. Apreel wants these games done and dusted. And I haven't seen too much from the Susano since that very early stage, but waking up with a quadra kill. Oh no, wake up Echrome. Here's a FrenchEmperor on top of your head. Now, there is a tower behind Echrome, has now used that jolt to get away. Oh, the shots do it quite well. Oh, doesn't win it, but does trade it out equally. Overall, I'd say that's a win for Echrome.
That's definitely a win. If you're a jungler in a 1v1 with an ADC at this point, you think, well, I'm probably dead here. Apreel looking to try and get his 6th kill of the game, but unfortunately just cannot find the pull onto StreakUp. At this point, if you are Yomi Tanuki, you know that if there's a chance to kill Apreel or kill anybody else, you are killing Apreel. The bounty on this man is huge.
Yeah, it's at the moment at least 4 kills. Might even be the 5th one as well. So right now, like you said, Apreel's the major target if you can find it. So maybe shouldn't be playing around so willy-nilly. Almost goes for a triple bounce there. Oh, Calvin with the blink. Gets the push as well. Here comes the watery grave. Actually, Apreel wants to go in. That's the cue to go. Doesn't manage to connect with one, but does get the double slashes down. Now it's a rampage for Apreel. Nothing Calvin could do about that one.
In fact, I think Calvìn actually kills StreakUp there. He forces him to go aggressively.
probably.
He pushes apreel closer to StreakUp and goes, here you go, apreel. Have another kill. It's on me. Please, I insist. This man denied me farm, allegedly. I'm making this up. But he deserves to die for it.
Look, it doesn't matter if it's made up, as long as it makes good on the story. And yeah, right now, Calvìn down in farm. Apparently taking it out on StreakUp, but not really. We'll see what the opportunity that the Tanuki thought they might have had there. There might be an opportunity on the Deathwalker, but no, Deathwalker manages to dash away from the dunk down, and Emperor has to retreat.
Oh, apreel here.
Oh, here we go again. The Susano back on the scene. I think it has been recognized. They know that he's somewhere. Seen lots of pings come out. Pikarino as well being spotted at those small camps. Again, on the left-hand side now, Silenced and
Calvìn.
Echrome stepping up high. Calvìn silenced out from the dash as well, crippled out from the dash. There's the jolt and the final shot coming out from Echrome. It said the Solar Scarabs might try to play it slow. It has been anything but.
The only person... Okay, it's not even that anymore, because iSilenced is now 5 levels up on Calvìn, by the way. 5 levels up on a support in 12 minutes. This is... I don't want to say this is over, but Calvìn is going to struggle to get back into this game, and he's going to be trudging along agonizingly for about 20 minutes before he is even close to parity at this stage.
Yeah, like, how do you fight back into this? You know, you are the primary initiation tool on this Kuzenbo. All right, we do have the TheFrenchEmperor on the Ratatoskr who can provide that, but really, Rat wants to be swooping in after the fact. The engagement after the engagement, as it were. So, for Calvìn now, if you can manage to get your blink and push off, then fine. But with iSilenced always on cue with the Ohm, it doesn't seem like it's going to be that likely for, I mean, quite some time. So we'll have to keep an eye on what Calvìn is able to do and have some kind of case study into how iSilenced has pulled so far ahead, because this is unreal.
Yeah, this will be talked about by scientists for years to come. It's how this disparity happened. When you have a disparity this large in support, you assume it's because another disparity has happened elsewhere in your favor. Echrome's going to get ganked here, though. Good beads and great Aegis. They're still chasing him, though.
Still won it. TheFrenchEmperor, though, will fall down. And Echrome will manage to pick up that kill. I was wondering if Silence might sneak in with a sneaky steal there. Drops the Dharmic Pillars. Apreel is here. Calvìn pushes him away. Calvìn now, this is what you can do from this far behind. Just be the sacrifice. Surely Calvìn will go down. Pikarino trying to save them. There's the Typhoon and the Final Judgment actually used there. A lot committed onto this low-level support, but it's still 2 kills to 1 for the Scarabs.
I think at this point you kind of have to commit both of those ultimates, because you don't have much percentage pen online. You have good flat pen options right now, but the percentage pen just means that you can chew through this Gauntlet of Thebes a lot easier. There's a little bit of magic protection there as well, thanks to the Shogun's Kasari. Not too sure on that one, actually, on the Shoguns on Calvìn. There's only one god on your team that's really going to benefit from it, and that's going to be StreakUp. And if you're a Kuzenbo sitting next to your ADC, something's gone wrong in that game. Unless you push somebody into your ADC, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to stand around and just help them out. As a Kuzenbo, you want to be aggressive. You want to be in the front line just spreading the battlefield. You're not going to do that whilst you're on top of your own hunter.
Yeah, it's an interesting pick, this Kuzenbo. We actually haven't seen it at all, I believe, so far this tournament, but we did see that yesterday the Wargs actually banned it against the Tanuki. So something
Deathwalker?
that Calvìn has been doing has been interesting, but Deathwalker now has no idea they're in some danger. There's another Beads Aegis coming out. TheFrenchEmperor might need to hold these abilities a little bit. Deathwalker now away from the dart coming up for TheFrenchEmperor, and here's apreel to sweep things up and will clean up this kill. Deathwalker gets away yet again. TheFrenchEmperor falls down for a 4th time.
He's going for it, apreel. He wants to see if he can find this Raijin. I think he's looking for it. He might be able to.
Oh,
good Aegis.
There's an Aegis. Fantastic. Oh, it lasts long enough for the Typhoon as well. OgiBre wants to fight this, actually. apreel will cut their losses and just retreat. But this is the pressure Susano's putting out. 8-1, of course. You don't even need to get the kill there. You still get a big cooldown off the board for this Raijin. And, you know, maybe there'll be an opportunity there in the next couple of minutes.
So, I was touching on the fact that, you know, if Calvin's this far behind, there's usually a disparity elsewhere before the gank and left happened.
Yes.
Right now, there is no disparity going your way. The closest you are is even, and that's in the mid lane matchup. Have a look elsewhere. Your solo lane, a level behind. Your jungler, 3 levels behind. Your ADC, 2 levels behind. If you are 5 levels down, maybe 6, it's 6 now! It's 6 levels down! If you are 6 levels down as a support, you are hoping, like praying, that the whole game plan was the fact that somebody else on your team is benefiting from the fact you are getting farm and getting ahead, and then you play through them. There is no chance of that happening right now with Yomi Tanuki because everybody is behind.
Scarabs now pull the Sony Fury. Calvìn might be down in levels, but can they play hero? And actually, no, not even going to commit to it. Not willing to step up, unfortunately, there. Pikarino busy over on the right-hand side on this Pyromancer. But this is what's been said before. You can do as an alternative. Oh, looks like they dropped it for a second, but did pick it back up and have managed to secure that objective. They have synchronized the timers, at least, so that if the Solar Scarabs are to go for this Gold Fury again, the Yomi Tanuki can counteract that with a Pyromancer take. So that's one plus for the Tanuki to hopefully stem some of this bleeding, or at least keep the gap where it is, because right now it's quite a significant gold lead in favor of the Scarabs, and not one you're going to be too happy fighting into if you're the Tanuki.
So 4K gold disparity, it's not the end of the world, but Solar Scarabs definitely will feel confident going into these fights. Actually, it's closer to 5,000 as we see the graphs experience difference. The less said, the better. We've sort of touched upon it quite a fair bit. I mean, the benefit, though, is if Calvìn gets a kill, he probably gets 2 levels from that kill alone.
Oh, good. Just imagine if Calvìn gets a kill onto apreel right now. That would
Oh
be
my God.
the biggest gain in history. And we're seeing a tree come out in the sky from TheFrenchEmperor. Goes for Echrome, I think, but Echrome safely pass over to those mid camps, and we'll just take that instead. There's a big cooldown off the board, and I do wonder if the Scarabs are aware of it. We'll see if they react accordingly. It looks like this mid lane tier 1 tower under some pressure, considered by many, AJ, to be one of the most important objectives on the map.
Probably is the most important objective on the map. I remember way back in the day that you'd sort of almost sack Gold Fury or sack Portal Demon as it was at the time, or the Fire Giant even. If you could get it, you'd try and get tier 1 towers if you weren't feeling confidence on the Fire Giant because of just how much map pressure that one tier 1 tower gets you. It's not the goal, it's the pressure and then the stuff after the stuff, because you can have a much better chance at invading onto other camps because your opponents don't have that safe haven. They don't have that tower to sit under and just regroup and refocus under. They have to go to the tier 2 in mid, or some of the tier 1s or tier 2s in the other lanes, which is just too far away to defend that central point of the map.
Yeah, tier 2
Oh my
goes
God.
just so far. You don't feel happy there. Pikarino taking another chunk of damage. I'm sure that has felt this before, though. Thoth versus Kukulkan seems to be flavor of the month here. Apreel blinks in. There's a tornado out. Final Judgment charge. There's the Aegis from Pikarino. Out comes the Spirit of the Nine Winds. Does not connect onto Apreel, but OgiBre making the fast rotation over. However, takes a big brunt of damage instead. There's the Final Judgment. Doesn't quite connect onto the Raijin. Lots of abilities traded back and forth, but at the moment, no kills to speak of.
Oh, apreel is looking for a kill, doesn't get onto OgiBre in time, and now everyone's swarming around him as StreakUp dashes in.
Oh, this is the big kill we were talking about. Deathwalker as well. Has a lot of value. Uses the purification beads. Does this Agni. TheFrenchEmperor ready for it. Already goes into the bigger fish instead, but hold on. That's the whole team the TheFrenchEmperor has encountered. Gets eaten alive. Does this Ratatoskr. And finally, the mid lane tier 1 shall fall in favor of the Scarabs.
Yeah, he got absolutely baited there by apreel. Apreel throws out his jet stream, stands somewhere else we can't be landed on if he teleports away, or if he stands still and lands on where the teleport is. TheFrenchEmperor guesses wrong, lands on where the teleport would be. He then teleports to him to then kill him with the rest of his team. TheFrenchEmperor just completely bamboozled.
Yep. Outplayed, baited, but still means that the Yomi Tanuki have a mountain to climb. Even in that sort of situation, right? Apreel was so high up, very exposed, and then actually used that jet stream aggressively onto OgiBre, who had returned to base. It all looked like finally the Tanuki were going to get that all-important kill, but they still haven't managed it. It does mean that that bounty is still there if they are finally able to take down this Susano at some point. I'm just not sure when they're going to get the opportunity. Calvìn over here, finally level 12, might now be able to have a bigger impact. Still only has that vision shard. Apreel wants StreakUp, not going to be able to get it.
The fact that
But
they
right now,
just
Solar Scarabs always
stay
find
in their
themselves
lanes
in
for
front.
so often. Gold Fury is taken, meanwhile, by the Solar Scarabs as they extend their lead over to about 7,000, closing in on 8,000 gold, actually, in front. And it's starting to get to the point now where Yomi Tanuki, they have to rely on Solar Scarabs making a mistake.
Oh, here they are stepping up yet again. Are the Solar Scarabs. Yomi Tanuki can't yet punish them for it. And is, well, looks like the Pyromancer now going to be the brunt of the force for the Solar Scarabs. I do wonder if they will quickly turn this into a Fire Giant. And in fact, Emperor up into the tree just in case. It will be pulled now by the Scarabs. They're looking to churn out the DPS. Emperor actually returned a bit of base. Not going to be able to get here fast. StreakUp in some trouble. There's the beads. There's the Aegis. Does manage to dash away and just about gets up onto the mounted archer. It was all a bait and switch, turning into a fight for the Solar Scarabs, but the Tanuki get out alive. But can they now guard against this re-engage onto the Fire Giant?
Well, they've got to try and get in there first, and right now it's a great zone presence being created by Deathwalker and Zyrhoes. Just the threat of damage from out over some random wall from this Thoth. It's just a little bit too forceful for him, but he's getting a damage. He's getting engaged by TheFrenchEmperor with a kill.
Yeah, whatever you can do, I can do better, says Pikarino. Dishes out the damage. There's the Spirit of the Nine Winds, though, doesn't connect onto Apreel. The Fire Giant actually gets dropped by the Solar Scarabs. Yomi Tanuki consider picking it back up, but Calvìn takes a chunk of damage. Now, OgiBre takes the Frost, but there is Apreel. Finally finds their angle. Starts the go button, finally gets shut down, though. All that gold goes to StreakUp, and Emperor has to retreat. Now, Pikarino on the backside. OgiBre falling down to Deathwalker. Echrome in some danger, can't fight back. It's an absolute bloodbath, 3 for 3.
And that is the fight that Yomi Tanuki needed, just to slow the pace of the game down and make sure that they can try and get it to a point where they are a little bit closer to even. I mean, have a look at the builds of the Solar Scarabs. They've just had to replace their recipes for most of them, and then they're done. Meanwhile, Yomi Tanuki, 2 players can replace their recipes and be done, but the rest of them still need to finish up their starter item, maybe finish up one more item beyond that. Calvìn needs to finish up an entire item still before he can even think about upgrading his starter or getting a new item in place of that recipe. In fact, he starts to get 3 more levels before he can even get a new upgrade on that starter item.
Yeah, still a while to go for Calvìn. What good a big objective would do for this Kuzenbo. At the moment, though, it's just some kills traded back and forth. And like I said, the big shutdown on Apreel goes the way of StreakUp. And that's probably your ideal situation there. Of course, either StreakUp or Pikarino would have been fine. Pikarino, of course, netting themselves a kill in that fight too. So your backline damage for the Tanuki are strong enough. They are not at the point where they are irrelevant, and the Solar Scarabs do still have to worry about them. So you now have to keep Calvìn and OgiBre relevant enough to dish out the damage and provide that frontline presence. And it's been okay for the Tanuki just then, but the Solar Scarabs still feel confident enough to pull this fire.
A huge 32 crits coming out there from Echrome on the side shots of his one there. But Calvìn dashing in, Calvìn getting half health, and Apreel looking to try and finish him off, and that's going to kick off the fight.
Yeah, it takes them all the way out. There's 2 with the Spirit of the Nine Winds. Not enough damage, though. Emperor goes on to Echrome, shut down by Zyrhoes. Final judgment to the back of the head. And that will be that for this Ratatoskr. Now, most of the contention for the Tanuki is gone. But they've at least managed to keep the Scarabs off this Fire Giant.
That was almost an execution that happened there with Zyrhoes, just charging up that final judgment, and all of a sudden, bang, right in TheFrenchEmperor's face, and down he goes, just obliterated. I think it was about over 1,000 damage came out from that one ability. And he still has the ability to change his starter item, his recipe for a new item. It's going to hit even harder after that.
Pikarino, no Spirit of the Nine Winds. StreakUp takes a big chunk of damage already. OgiBre, though, rakes the angle over. Has to contend with Apreel, who's just dishing out the damage on whoever the target is. Calvìn now into the pit. Drops that watery grave all over the mud, causing some chaos, but the health bar is low. There is the Solar Scarabs. Finish off the objective. Finish off OgiBre and Calvìn. Pikarino gets a second life and spends it the same way they did the first. And now the Solar Scarabs charge forward.
And then StreakUp is the next one. Beads are going to be used. He avoids the stun there. Might actually get out for just a second, but Deathwalker is giving chase. Silence is coming through as well. Zyrhoes dashing in. Aegis, it's only going to delay the inevitable. It's Apreel going to be the recipient of the kill onto the ADC. Just TheFrenchEmperor alive for the Yomi Tanuki as Solar Scarabs march down this right-hand side.
March down the right-hand side, definite tier 2 in their future. Probably a Phoenix as well. Will it be the end is the question. Calvìn has now respawned. OgiBre up in 13 seconds. It might be a tall order. Let's see how confident the Solar Scarabs are feeling. Not overconfident, as there are still 2 tier 2 towers standing. And that'll be that for the Scarabs, but now they are pulling even further into the lead.
Yeah, this is going to be Pyromancer 100%. Might even go transition over towards that Gold Fury, just to make the next Fire Giant a little bit easier. I don't think they'll be able to end it on this Fire Giant run, unless they get another fight like they did that last one, where they just clean swept through the Yomi Tanuki. Almost zero resistance in that entire engagement as apreel just loops around the back, takes out, I think it was OgiBre he took out very quickly in that entire engagement. That's the solo lane tanky mage that he took out in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it's just crazy, the amount of damage this Susano is doing. I'm sure Susano is designed to be less of a burst god and more just one that kind of chips away at you in and out. Doesn't matter here. Someone didn't tell apreel that. And apreel's just been showing us how it can be done even against these tanky targets. And a lot of it does unfortunately stem from Calvìn still being only level 13, really not tanky on this Kuzenbo. And it just means that there is a lot more pressure onto OgiBre. With these mage solos, we don't tend to want to see them be that full frontline presence, almost as a secondary frontline where you get in, poke, provide a little bit of CC, but you're still not that tanky. Right now, all of the work is on OgiBre's back.
Tier 2 tower on this left-hand side is going to be forfeited here by Yomi Tanuki. And so gold lead extends well beyond that 10,000 gold point. It's actually up to about 13,000. Just look at the graphs, 20,000 experience difference. It's a little bit deceptive in the fact that lots of people are level 20. It's just Calvìn, and Calvin's going to be engaged on as well.
Silence drops the Dharmic Pillars. Not a lot of damage yet onto this left side Phoenix. Oh my goodness, Calvìn though!
Oh.
Nowhere to go. The shots from Echrome, too much damage. And apreel still sweep it up. Now TheFrenchEmperor once in. What's the damage? There's the Spirit of the Nine Winds does connect onto Echrome, but TheFrenchEmperor sent packing back home. And now has to retreat. Silence yet again. Steps in. Takes some damage though from Pikarino. Left side Phoenix still standing strong, but look at the long range poke that the Solar Scarabs have at their disposal. StreakUp now being poked away. TheFrenchEmperor has come back to the fight. Silence though, not confident enough to step in. These tornadoes providing a real obstacle. Pikarino not healthy enough to retreat, has to go back, and finally left side Phoenix shall fall.
Yeah, Solar Scarabs making a little bit more difficult work of that Phoenix, and the gold lead really should dictate that they would be making of it, but Yomi Tanuki with a good defense there. I'd say gives them a bit more hope to be able to defend the final Phoenix that's standing in that mid lane. It's going to be the tier 2 tower in the way of that as well, but Fire Giant spawning in about 23 seconds. Well, 23 seconds left on their Fire Giants, my apologies. And then it spawns about 1:20, so it's going to be the enhanced Fire Giant, the next objective on this map for the Solar Scarabs, and after that, probably going to be the game.
Well, look, if you are the Yomi Tanuki captain, or coach, I should say, in your case, I suppose, what would you be hoping they do here? What's the call? Do you defend this enhanced Fire Giant? Do you just wait and hope that you can make a final defense? Because the Phoenix defense there was pretty good, but it still inevitably went the way of the Scarabs.
I would say if you're in a position where you're all around and can probably try and mount a defense, do so. But if you're forced to push into too much resistance, you almost have to give it up at that point and try and defend under the Titan underneath the Phoenixes. So push aggressively, but not too aggressively would be my call.
All right, so somewhat is your answer. We'll go for a soft defense of this Fire Giant, or the enhanced Fire Giant, I should say. And I think you are right. You are looking for an opportunity. The worst thing you can do as the Yomi Tanuki is not capitalize on a mistake that the Solar Scarabs will make. Now, they're not liable to make one so far. It's especially apreel has barely put a foot wrong this entire game. So I think having the opportunity for the Scarabs here to make a mistake is unlikely, but you would kick yourself if you're the Tanuki and you just let them get away with something like Deathwalker here. Stepped up relatively high. apreel as well is local, but the Fire Giant burning down. TheFrenchEmperor goes up to the sky. Half HP still remaining on this Fire Giant. TheFrenchEmperor again, always wanting to target out apreel in these fights. It hasn't really worked yet, but maybe it will at one point. Fire Giant though, very low. Pikarino comes in. The Spirit of the Nine Winds swoops in. The Yomi Tanuki. They're going to steal away the enhanced Fire Giant. Now they're going for the fight afterwards. Pikarino executed by the fire from Zyrhoes, but they got the all-important objective.
Yeah, that is huge. Pikarino, your sacrifice will not be in vain, or will it? Phoenix falls down to the minions. There's still that tier 2 tower mid and the Phoenix, but that Fire Giant steal saves the game for them, potentially allows them to come back into it, but it all depends on how this next Phoenix defense goes. You are 5 versus 4. You are still massively behind in gold. You're still behind in your support in terms of experience. Yes, he's finally managed to upgrade his starter item, but you still have to hold. And it looks like just the presence alone from that enhanced Fire Giant has forced Solar Scarabs to reconsider their plans.
So flipping the script of the Yomi Tanuki, not going to be as easy as it might have looked for the Solar Scarabs. It was a really chaotic fight there. You know, everything was spread out. FrenchEmperor, of course, being a real pain to both Zyrhoes and apreel, forcing them to reconsider their positions. And unfortunately for Zyrhoes, Spirit of the Lion Wings is just a little bit better, a little bit higher damage than the Final Judgment. So got caught out there, and we've seen Pikarino be so consistent on these objective secures for their team. This time actually managing to provide an objective steal as well. This game, not quite over yet.
Not over by a long shot. And this might not... Look, Calvin's actually half the deficit now. He's only 3 levels down. He's, for all intents and purposes, back into this game. This is what you would expect a support who's behind for most of the game to be. About 3 levels behind once you hit this 32, 33 minute mark. He's back. Calvin's back, baby.
Calvìn is back. The Turtle Man is ready to have an impact. And honestly, it has been pretty good from Calvìn for the last few minutes. It's been very tough to take down this Kuzenbo. See, they are crit only hitting for 189. Really not what you'd be looking for. Ooh, FrenchEmperor almost getting caught out there. Has to use their engage tool as an escape tool. So what can the Scarabs do knowing that that is off the mark? It looks like they're all 5 stacking on this left-hand side, want to take down this low health Phoenix. Will the Tanuki defend outside the base, though? Solar Scarabs aren't feeling confident here.
Yeah, they're just trying to ease their way into this objective. It's difficult once, you know, Pikarino's just slamming these tornadoes down, killing the minions before they even touch this Phoenix line. It's one of the reasons why this Kukulkan pick is so prevalent in the meta right now. He's so good on offense, so good on defense as well. It's probably one of the best defensive gods in the game because of the fact it just makes sieging so much more difficult. You're seeing it plain as day here.
Yeah, you see it sometimes with like a Merlin pick, for example, where there's just a large circle in the way. And, you know, a backliner for the Solar Scarabs can't just walk in. Oh my goodness! Pikarino one shot to the next life, so has to retreat and get safe, because that could always come up again in the next 60 seconds or so. FrenchEmperor goes back to the skies. Yomi Tanuki go to mount their defense. There's the Aegis comes out from Zyrhoes. Oh, wow! FrenchEmperor knocked up by the Typhoon and blown up by Deathwalker. Now, Solar Scarabs with a man advantage. Only 3 members of the Tanuki with this Fire Giant still on them. Now, Calvìn goes in. Runic Bond dropped, no minions to help it, so the Phoenix still stands up. The Solar Scarabs beating their head against this left Phoenix, and finally it shall fall with the help of another Runic Bomb.
FrenchEmperor died so quickly, I don't even think he had a chance to react with any of his relics. He still has beads, couldn't use Bleak because he was in the middle of combat, but my god, that rat just disappeared.
Yeah, I think got knocked up by the Typhoon as he was trying to dash away. And then that was it for Deathwalker. Just seals him in place and takes him down. And that is the enhanced Fire Giant now about to fall off of the Yomi Tanuki. So the Solar Scarabs in a slightly worse off position. It's actually very similar to how we were just 5 minutes ago, with 1 Phoenix for the Yomi Tanuki coming back online. 1 Phoenix on the left-hand side still down. But what are the lessons learned by the Solar Scarabs? Can they redo this fight and this time do it a little bit better?
No, I think this Fire Giant is the most important one. The last one was important for Yomi Tanuki to just make sure that they stay in the game. This one could potentially win them the game. This is the type of time where a Fire Giant gives you command of the map. It gives you control of whose base is under siege and whose base is being aggressed on, and who's doing that aggression. So they want to make sure that they're in the vicinity for this defense. They want to make sure that they have an opportunity to try and maybe steal it like they did last time. But as you said, Solar Scarabs will have learned from that last objective push and will be creating more of a buffer zone around them now.
French Emperor taking advantage of the fact the Fire Giant hasn't yet spawned by clearing out some waves on left. However,
Oh, he's late.
been seen
He's
on
late.
Matt, and now it's going to be too late. Pikarino now trying to slither their way over, but this Fire Giant's just going down too fast. The Solar Scarabs take it without much fuss. Yomi Tanuki now up on their last legs trying to make this base defense happen.
I think that's one of the... There's been a couple of mistakes from the Yomi Tanuki jungler this game. I think that's the biggest misstep he's done in the entire game. Not being there for the potential to steal a defense Fire Giant or even fight around it is criminal 37 minutes into the game.
Oh, there's OgiBre taken down by Zyrhoes. French Emperor goes in again, tries to take down Echrome, but can't do it. Only 3 members left now for the Yomi Tanuki, and Apreel wants to take one down. Can't do it because of Calvìn and Pikarino combined, but this right side Phoenix now exposed. Surely will be going down. Calvìn blinks beyond the defensive line, and now this Phoenix still standing for a moment. We'll actually have StreakUp left to defend it, dishing out some damages, this Hachiman, but now it is the last Phoenix, the final Phoenix, the mid lane Phoenix, being taken by the Solar Scarabs, and Pikarino goes down with it.
That's it. That is the big ticket defense, man, that they've managed to take down. It's just a duo lane left. Calvìn finally level 20, and he doesn't get to see much of it. Deathwalker with a double kill. Echrome cleans up StreakUp, and that is the inside to end the game. 37 minutes taken down for the Solar Scarabs.
It was not easy for the Solar Scarabs, but they always had that commanding lead. There's a bit of a hiccup towards the end, but they recovered and they got the next enhanced Fire Giant, and they were able to really put it together, and that was a very clean take at the end. Why didn't they just do that before, AJ? Why didn't they just make it that easy for themselves? But no, it looks like it just wasn't possible.
It just wasn't possible. They were too compact in their defense before, but just an over-aggression from French Emperor there allows the door to be opened ever so slightly. Then OgiBre also just getting completely wiped off the face of the planet thanks to a final judgment from Zyrhoes sort of opens the door just enough for them there.
Our first game goes the way of the Solar Scarabs. It is the last stand now for the Yomi Tanuki. Let's see if they can turn it around as we head to a quick break.
right, our friends over at Advanced GG have partnered with us once more to bring you another flavor and another shaker, Cthulhu's Dream, now available over on the Advanced.gg website, a raspberry acai flavor and a Cthulhu shaker, both available. If you use code SMITE, if you want to buy them individually, you can get 10% off, or you can buy them in a bundle that's already got a nice little bit of a discount to it. Man, when we partner with Advanced GG, we got our first shaker, got our first flavor, and I'm like, all right, cool. That's it. We got our stuff. No, I think this is now like our 5th flavor and our 5th shaker that we have brought out with here. They just keep on coming. They just keep getting better and better. So make sure you go to advanced.gg/SMITE to check out all the stuff that we do have available through the Advanced GG website, and make sure, again, code SMITE 10% off of your order. Thank you so much to Advanced GG for partnering with us here in year 10 of SMITE and season 10 of the SPL. I'm J-Mac. Got Bobby joining me here on the desk one more time. So we talk about game number 1, and man, game 1, I thought we were going to be seeing probably 20, 25 minutes, and this one's going to be over just because of how dominant the early game was out of Apreel from the jungle for the Solar Scarabs. Absolutely commanding the early game, puts Calvìn super far behind on the support role, 5, nearly 6 levels at one point that the support falls down. The Yomi Tanuki able to hold on for a little bit. Their base defense strong enough to at least maintain, but when you're that far down that early in the game, it's hard to come back and fight in that situation.
Yeah, and I think you highlighted perfectly. Apreel on the Susano it's got to be done. I need to see it banned because this is the 2nd or 3rd, 4th time where he has picked this character and kind of just ran the entire lobby. So he just seems so confident on it. You got to put him on something else. And also this Thoth, late game, that one-shot potential. There was an alternate timeline Cuckoo that got wiped off the map by the Thoth, and then just died immediately after again because there's just so much constant damage coming out. And I think when we talk about what happened in this game, yes, the early game was dominant, but Tanuki kind of slowed the game down a lot in that 15 to 25 minute mark, 30 minutes before they were really able to get this EFG and actually be able to push down to get the end. And I think that kind of shows the resilience of this Yomi Tanuki team, where this game, if they don't fall behind, if they keep this game at least a little bit even through that middle portion of the game, yeah, that was an incredible quadra kill too. Keep this even or more even towards that middle portion of the game. There was a lot of positives in the late game, out team fighting sometimes while they were down 10,000 gold, which is incredible. So they just need to kind of slow that early game down. Calvìn needs to find a little bit of farm elsewhere, not get punished as hard as he did, maybe play a little bit more of a defensive style. But I think, 1, Apreel's got to go off the Susano. 2, this Thoth is just so powerful on Zyrhoes. And 3, I think we have to find a different support for the Yomi Tanuki.
That was a 1K crit that Echrome just fired off on the Ishtar. My God. What a fun time it must have been for TheFrenchEmperor in that last little team fight. Did anything that he could to try and turn things back around for him. And it almost felt like, at least with the jungle picks, it kind of felt inverse of expectations. Susano takes usually a little bit to get online. Maybe that level 12, level 15 or so is where we really start to see him get more active, get that damage online. Whereas you expect the Ratatoskr, level 5, hit the ground running, you got your ultimate, start getting active. But it really felt like they kind of flipped the script on there. Was Apreel's early game was being very dominant, making sure to get to that back line. We saw, 10 minutes, a tower dive for a quadra kill for the Susano. That's not what you'd expect at that point. And then late game, we started to see the highlights of the Ratatoskr start to come through. But I think this is now, I believe, the 2nd time this weekend that I've witnessed where it's a Susano versus Rat, and the Susano is just outright winning the early. So maybe if you give the Susano, maybe find something besides the Rat, or maybe just stop giving the Susano to a player like Apreel, who has just been so dominant on this pick.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'd prefer. Just get rid of Apreel and the Susano. Yes, Rat's still a dominant jungler. He's still very sick, but not against Apreel or not against Susano, one of the two. Now hopping into P's and B's, Yomi Tanuki taking that first side, hoping to switch stuff up. Thoth, Raijin, Hachiman, the first 3 picks. A bunch of high prio bans coming through, but now they kind of get to dictate this early P's and B's taking that first pick.
Yeah, I think this first pick is going to be very crucial for the Yomi Tanuki. I mean, we saw last time it was a first pick Thoth for the Solar Scarabs, followed up by a Hachiman Raijin for the Yomi Tanuki. So I wonder what the Yomi Tanuki will go for. They take the Thoth away and actually leave Opwash open. Banned away in game number 1, and now what is seen as one of the top pick solo lane mages in the game with some flexibility option. Do you think this is a strong first pick here for the Tanuki?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fantastic first pick, and I think it's because of that hybrid potential or that shift potential into mid lane that kind of brings out that strength of the Opwash. You don't guarantee him in solo lane, so you get yourself an okay matchup. You guarantee just a strong mage overall that can play 2 different roles. The Scarabs looking at that Hachiman, taking it away from the Tanuki, not going for that Ishtar again, but a lot of prio on this Hachiman, with Baba coming out, Sobek, and the Nuwa.
The Nuwa is interesting. I think this is the one that really strikes me as, what? Jormungandr. So, like, earlier in the year, Yorm solo was kind of the thing to go. We saw the SCC teams doing it, jumped up into the SPL for a little bit. It was, what, Sun Wukong and Jormungandr were just dominating the solo lane. And then they both eventually phased out, Jormungandr even sooner. So a Yorm here in game number 2 from the Solar Scarabs for Deathwalker. What is this Yorm going to offer and bring to the rest of this composition?
I mean, Yorm has always had a dominant laning phase. He's very hard to lane against, really good laning. The problem is, Yorm has a pretty hard matchup into a lot of these solo laners because they just outpoke, they outsustain. Late game, once it gets down to it, the dive potential of a Yorm is still very insane. It is a little skill shot heavy, but it's still a very strong god overall. And that's what I expect to see in this late game with this Jormungandr is that dive potential. Because, I mean, you play these mages, not much dive potential. You play these guardians, these warriors, a lot more dive potential.
Yorm and then Atlas Mercury to round out the bottom 2 for the Solar Scarabs. Yomi Tanuki after the Sobek Nuwa in the Alplash. Draft up a Tsukuyomi and Izanami. Now, we've been seeing a little bit of Tsukuyomi, some jungle, some mid/solo. It kind of flexes around, but given that you already have the Alplash and the Nuwa, it seems this one will be slotting itself over in the jungle. For the Yomi Tanuki, what's kind of their curve through the game to find their path to success to try and win game 2?
Dual lane early game, and then once it goes late game, the dive potential on this comp is insane. Tsukuyomi, Nuwa, just really good, and then Alplash with really good late game potential with big area control.
Well, it is elimination on the line. If Yomi Tanuki can win this out and take it to game 3, they've got a second chance, or the Solar Scarabs going to close it out here. We'll throw over to our casters for game number 2.
That's right, J-Mac. Like you said, it is the last legs now for the Yomi Tanuki. And AJ, I've heard of a pocket pick, but I mean, with the draft that the Tanuki have gone for, they must have dug deep into a bag of holding for this one.
I love the reference there, by the way. I'll give you massive props for that one, but it's not often that you do see a Nuwa picked up. And then there's also the fact that you're going into an Izanami, not really favored right now as an ADC. I'm going to have to agree. This is the do-or-die moment, and what a moment to pick it out with.
Yeah, and Calvìn rinsing silenced here, and actually goes for a pluck again. The beads first. That's one of the best deflections we've seen of these support invades. I do wonder if that's going to pay off now for the Tanuki, because Calvìn misses out on a little bit of farm. As we saw in game number 1, doesn't seem to really bother them, but the Sobek not quite as slippery as a Kuzenbo can be, so certainly going to need those levels if you really want to remain relevant.
No, I don't want to look at this U lane. What I want to look at... Oh, actually, maybe we have to look at it for a little bit more as Echrome gets plucked in. The one lane I want to look at is the solo lane. It's not often now that we see a Guardian or a Warrior in that solo lane. It's been dominated by mages as Calvìn gets his pluck immuned yet again thanks to some beads. But I want to see just how well this Jormungandr does. I think it's a brilliant pickup to try and cause some chaos in this slightly immobile team.
You got your eyes on Jormungandr. I've got my eyes yet again on Silence, because StreakUp and Calvìn going for it. Calvìn nailing these plucks yet again. But also this Tsukuyomi pick up a TheFrenchEmperor. We've seen some changes recently come through. Of course, you know, has received that knock-up immunity yet again on the Kusaragawa. So happy to see that coming through. And can be aggressive early on, and Silence in some trouble. Oh, there's the blink pluck.
Oh, right side.
Does not collect. Silence there, not going to be able to pull Calvìn under the tower. So no more aggression just yet, but already signs that the TheFrenchEmperor wants to get involved quickly.
Yeah, left-hand side is where Yomi Tanuki are looking. Right side is where apreel was looking, just to get Deathwalker a little bit further ahead in this matchup, which is a decent matchup for the Jormungandr. It's why it's been picked, but mid lane could be a little bit of trouble. Pikarino not really mobile on this Nuwa. Gonna get aggressed on here.
Oh, there's the special delivery sent over to Zyrhoes. The blast off as well for some extra damage. Surely Pikarino falls, and yes, they shall. apreel picks up this first blood. This might be why we haven't seen too much Nuwa yet.
It's just that she has to scale so much before she really gets involved into the game. You can't really afford that on your mages in the mid lane, and the fact that she doesn't really offer too much in the way of control directly through some CC or areas that I like a Kukulkan has done in the past, or a Thoth like we've seen earlier today, or a Baba Yaga that we're seeing Zyrhoes pick up now. It's a little bit more difficult to pull this pick off. It's not a terrible pick. It's just one that you mentioned you have to dig deeper for, which makes sense given that a lot of mage picks were banned this game.
I can hear the fans now screaming, Yes, AJ, it is a terrible pick. Because a lot of people have some quite strong feelings about Noir, but we'll see how it comes out. Like you said, Pikarino looking to scale. That's kind of how Pikarino's played the Kukulkan previously as well. We did actually see that banned out by the Yomi Tanuki this time. Banning out both Thoth and Kukulkan means they wanted these mid lanes to have to dig a little bit deeper into their mid lane picks. I'm not sure Noir was the next in line, but look, like we're saying, when the chips are down, when you are in some trouble, like the Yomi Tanuki are, if they lose this, the season's over. So they have to do something a little bit spicy to really make this one stick.
Yeah, this is the time where if you have a pocket pick, if you have a strategy that you're thinking it's a bit risky, but it works if it pays off, this is the time to play it. This is the time to pick the risky, throw the dice strategies. And so far, it's not gone well. It's only 4 minutes into the game. Only one mishap, and that's a death that has happened in that mid lane. But look at the gold disparity already. It's well beyond that 500 gold bounty. It's actually 1,000 gold.
Oof. Yeah, well beyond that. 1,000 gold already with just the 1 kill as well. It's quite impressive. Now, TheFrenchEmperor really wants to make a play onto iSilenced. They smell it out. There's the slow immunity coming out. And yeah, that is what Atlas can do. Very safe for a Guardian, actually. Can just sprint on out of danger. And of course, with the presence of the jungler on the left for the Tanuki, means that Solar Scarabs feel happy to send Apreel over on this right-hand side yet again. Nothing quite doing for the Tanuki. I'm not sure how aggressive they wanted this start to be, but it hasn't quite worked in their favor just yet.
Oh, he's going to be stealing the first mask away from Yomi Tanuki. That's going to put them a fair bit further behind in terms of getting those masks up online. Which, honestly, I'm not upset about. But I would be upset if I was Yomi Tanuki, especially if it was the blue mask, because the 10% CDR is just so much more effective.
Yeah, and we do actually see, is that a ward in the mid lane coming out? Or Zyrhoes take some poke from TheFrenchEmperor. Apreel and Pikarino. Oh, I think that was the dash being caught there. So Apreel does charge that Sonic Boom. Supports make their way into the mid lane as well, just to see what's going on here. That's Calvìn dashing away from the pull-in. Everyone sort of countering each other out right now. No one quite getting an edge.
Mid camps are going to be fought over here on this right-hand side. 3 versus 3. The first big grouping that we've seen from both teams. Yomi Tanuki going to take it and happily walk away as the buff is started up over here on the right-hand side. Both blue buffs confirmed for their teams as the junglers are starting to make their way around the jungle. Sila's getting plugged in, though. And he's in a lot of trouble here.
Gets stunned out by that combination of the minions and the shining metal. Is not enough, though, to actually put down Silence. But an early damage check for this Noir, but like we said, does have to scale quite significantly before that really does a lot of damage. But that setup is there. You know, if Calvìn is able to connect with those plucks, as we've already seen them do plenty of times, then Pikarino has some very, very easy setup that they can rely on. But also need to keep an eye, of course, on how well they can combine that with TheFrenchEmperor on the Tsukuyomi, because Noir and Tsukuyomi, both these gods that you'd expect to sort of use those ultimates to chase down kills, catch people at low health. So you really want to make sure those are desynced from each other. You don't want to be combining all those when, you know, only one might be necessary.
I'm just slightly worried about the teamfight late game for the Yomi Tanuki, but they have to have one right now as engagement is Pikarino, and he's gone in the flash of an eye.
Gone in the flash of an eye, but silenced as well. Taking a lot of damage. Here comes TheFrenchEmperor trying to sweep it up. Does manage to get 1, but it's already 2 kills for the Scarabs. Calvìn now. Oh, fantastic blink over the wall. Echrome once in on this action, but will not be able to get involved. StreakUp stays safe for a moment, but that's already first flare-ups goes the way of the Scarabs.
And that's also 2 stacks on the Rage for Apreel. He's bought it first item, and, well, looks like it's paying off so far, being able to scale up that item very quickly. Just needs a couple more kills before then, and he's going to have a full stacked Rage on his hands. You could see it have it full stacked before the 10-minute mark, which is something you don't really say about Mercury. He takes a while before he gets a few items and then starts to really influence the game. But Apreel getting involved right from the get-go.
Yeah, Apreel, like you said, getting involved, used that ultimate onto Pikarino, who we already know is very susceptible to an early kill here, like, or an early death. Does manage to use their stun, actually thrown into danger, but now will be able to retreat. Silenced, really putting the pressure onto this Noir, and why not? There's really not a whole lot that the Yomi Tanuki can do about it. We'll have to keep Pikarino as safe as possible if we're going to see the true impact and the real purpose of this Noir pick.
Right-hand side looks like it's where it's going to be a bit of action next. Blue buffs are going to be spawning. Apreel knows that because of the timers on their own blue buff. OgiBre trying to go around the back to see if he can help with this blue buff defense, and they secure their buff. OgiBre thanking the lucky stars that he has some mana to play around with in lane, because if he doesn't have that blue buff, Puch really struggles over here in the solo lane. He chews through mana.
Yeah, really chews through it, and you want to be able to continuously poke and prod the Jormungandr. Calvìn being a bit off the mark now. His last couple of minutes with these charge praise was connecting consistently early on, but now struggled really to hit these impactful ones. And Echrome more than happy to chunk half of Calvin's damage, Calvin's health bar, I should say, just passively there. And Apreel sees an angle, goes all the way through it, and now Calvìn in some danger. But StreakUp, first time to get involved in the action, dishes out a lot of health, and that is Calvìn falling down. StreakUp goes to try to get away, but is not invisible for long. Knocked up into the tower, shut down by the Heavenly Banner. 2 more picks go the way of the Scarabs, and this game's looking even worse than the last one.
Yeah, but at least Calvin's even in experience.
There we go. Silver lining, you know.
You gotta take positives. Actually, no, wait, now that we see he's 2 levels behind. It's only 2 levels this time. Only 2 levels. Okay? Which, as a support, that's sort of the limit that you want to be behind. But you are right. This game does look a little bit worse on paper than the last one did for the Yomi Tanuki. I mean, what, 3,500 gold behind at this point? Experience difference probably will look roughly the same if we do have a look at the graphs. Yeah, about 4,500 there on the experience difference. It is going one way, and it's down, down, down.
Yeah, you could at least say that the Yomi Tanuki have a bit more scaling in pocket. You know, we're seeing FrenchEmperor go for this Transcendence build, Pikarino with the Book of Thoth, even StreakUp on the Devs Gauntlets. You know, sometimes we do see an Izanami maybe build Asi first to get that double proc from the passive, but right now everyone wants to wait a little bit, but the Solar Scarabs scale into the late game just fine. You know, Baba Yaga, the absolute late game menace, presuming we do see like another prophetic cloak being stacked up. I actually saw it missed previously. I think it might have been Zyrhoes who didn't even build it, but that's one of those key combinations of items that we see. StreakUp though, once in on Echrome, gets out the silence, but no more than that. Local was FrenchEmperor, but can't have any more impact. Oh wow, OgiBre being hunted down. The Solar Scarab's not going to find anything.
Nah, they just want to make sure that the Deathwalker's okay to farm up behind the tower, but this could be a lifeline. A bit of salvation here for the Yomi Tanuki. Gold Fury's going to be started up. Zyrhoes and Echrome in the area. Calvìn hits the plug, but it gets met with the beads. And that's going to be it. Actually, it's going to pull down here.
Oh, Calvìn just takes a ton of damage, and it looks like the Yomi Tanuki had to drop the objective because they did spot Apreel lurking around the backside. There's the Sonic Boom. Gets onto StreakUp. StreakUp, though, able to just dash on out. Here come the fire shards as well, just to see if there's any more action brewing. 3-level lead in the dual lane, 2-level lead in the jungle. FrenchEmperor scrapping it out with Apreel, does decent damage. Echrome comes from the backside, iSilenced, able to provide a bit more. There comes out the piercing moonlight, not going to be enough. StreakUp gets soloed by Echrome in the meantime, and another pair of kills go the way of the Scarabs, and now they look at the Gold Fury.
It's all gone. Tanuki's up here for Yomi Tanuki. It's a Gold Fury. It's going to be started up here by the Solar Scarabs. It's going to be taken down by the Solar Scarabs as they open up the lead to 6,000 gold in 11.5 minutes. That's 500 gold each minute that Solar Scarabs have just gone, we're taking and you're not. In this sort of meta and in this map where Snowball is so much more difficult to come by, it's an impressive showing here for the Solar Scarabs.
Yeah, really making a statement. They're saying we're in the losers bracket and we do not belong. They want to be making it all the way to these SWC group stages. And right now, the first obstacle is the Yomi Tanuki, and they are really well handling them. But they have to keep this going. We did see in game number 1, the Yomi Tanuki were down, not quite as much as this, but in a similar position. And they were given the time to sort of creep back into it. Now, this time, Pikarino not having the big long-range ultimate to steal away an enhanced fire giant, but you still can't let your foot off the gas if you're the Solar Scarabs.
Do you see something with Apreel, by the way?
My goodness. Crazy man.
That is a lot of crit already. 12 minutes in. I said he could finish it by 10 minutes. It's about, what, 11 minutes he finished it in? So it's out by a single minute.
That is frightening.
This is criminal.
Yeah, if you are any sort of squishy character, which 12 minutes into the game, that means everyone, Maybe not OgiBre, but even then, you're an Upwatch. You're taking multiple hits from this Mercury if it gets to you. This is a very frightening situation now. It all depends on if the Solar Scarabs can keep them involved. Now, OgiBre stepped up high. Ooh, Sonic Boom just off the mark. OgiBre able to take this fight. Look at the crits coming out. Has to use the Aegis on just normal basic attacks. Apreel wants to keep going. Here comes the Jormungandr, though. Y'all might not have hands, but OgiBre's about to catch them. Because here, coming into the towers, iSilenced as well, knocked up into the sky. The full dive comes on through. Nowhere to go for this Upwash. TheFrenchEmperor now gets the piercing moonlight onto iSilenced. Can they at least pick up one kill in this scenario? Yes, they can. Apreel now looking to sweep up some more. Does manage to do so. On the left-hand side is where the rest of the Yomi Tanuki are. StreakUp chasing after Echrome, who just drives that little minibus away. And again, I feel like I've said this plenty of times, but another pair of kills go to the way of the Scarabs.
And there it is. And it don't even get a response on that left-hand side. It just forces Echrome's ultimate. I genuinely think, with the fact that if StreakUp uses that Dark Portal and misses, Echrome can 1v2 them. I'm genuinely serious. I think he can actually kill both of them.
Calvìn, again, we're seeing this 4-level deficit now just in the support role. It's actually a 7-level deficit onto Echrome. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure Echrome can kill Calvìn if given the time and space to do so. And right now, every lane is struggling for the Tanuki. It started with Pikarino. It continued with Calvìn and StreakUp. Now it has affected OgiBre. For the Tanuki, this is your last stand. You can't throw in the towel. So what is your game plan? How do you find a window back into this game?
You've got to find a way of shutting down Apreel. I mean, he ran the show last game on the Susano, and he's doing so again on this Mercury pick. And, you know, a Mercury that's sort of in free fall, in just going through your entire jungle, going through your entire team without even being scathed. It's difficult to slow that down. It's difficult to put the brakes onto this character, but you have to find a way of doing so. You've got to anticipate his movements, ward up defensively, ward up some of the spots where Mercury has shown that he likes to ult from in the past. We have seen him sort of go on these diagonals from the jungle into the lane, ward up those starting spots so you can at least see when he is coming out. Maybe get a Spectral as well on Calvìn or an OgiBre, somebody, just to try and help reduce this crit. But you're going to have to be waiting at least another 5-10 minutes for that. At that point, the game could be over.
Calvìn, I believe, cooking up from behind a Manticore spikes. I've spent that entire time you talking, AJ, trying to work out what that item could possibly be. And I believe that will be a Manticore spikes coming out from Calvìn. Now look, it's not the tankiness you were talking about, it's not the Spectral you were talking about, but it does provide a little bit of extra damage for the rest of the Tanuki. Is that what the Tanuki need to have this impact? Because even Deathwalker here, level 17, 4 levels up in TheFrenchEmperor, does not care that the Tsukuyomi is throwing damage into them. It has to be the best impact you're going to get from Calvìn.
Well, at this point, he has to just try and find somebody, plug somebody in, but TheFrenchEmperor is being engaged by the backside. That was just 2 basic attacks, by the way, and he's already half health. Just 2.
Yep, didn't even connect with the Sonic Boom, I think that was. Now, actually, it's a small window. The Kusaragawa coming out from Tsukuyomi, TheFrenchEmperor, the second ability, that will do a lot of work into Apreel. In a team fight, if you're able to just disarm this Mercury, it does really reduce the damage up. But Silence willing to just go for this fight all by themselves onto TheFrenchEmperor. Can anyone find a punish now? Pikarino goes for it. Speed buff has been picked up by Silence. There's the root, there's the stun as well. Calvìn can't get through, and Zyrhoes just dishes out so much damage with that 7-level lead. There's nothing the Tanuki can do about it as a split push happens on the left-hand side.
I've just noticed the gold lead, by the way. It's at about 13,000.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is snowball beyond snowball at this point. This looks like the sort of game you'd expect when you see Hex Mambo take on the SOC teams. You'd expect it to be that sort of level disparity.
And it wasn't. We saw that.
No, yeah, this is like 2 of the top SCC teams fighting for their chance to go to Worlds, and one of them is just rolling over the other one with 0 resistance.
My goodness. Yeah, that new pick really not working. Calvìn going for a one-man beacon boogie. However, Silence shall clear the dance floor. And that will be that for that small fight.
Chrome.
Echrome hunting. Oh, StreakUp has fired off the shots. Uses the Aegis Amulet. 4-level deficit, though. There is nothing that StreakUp can do about it. It is a killing spree now for this Hachiman. French Emperor shows up. Hasn't had the impact on this Tsukuyomi either. Does manage to push out decent damage. There's the beads from Echrome. Here comes the piercing moonlight. The fantastic Aegis now trying to dish out the fight. And yes, shall take down French Emperor. Is life stealing up off of Calvìn. No cares in the world for Echrome. Now can Silence lock down this Croc. Lifts them up. Doesn't manage to pull them back in. Heavenly Banner comes down. Double kill for Echrome, who is on a rampage on this left-hand side of the map. I might even look at Pikarino.
He wins these as well. He doesn't care. He will fight all comers at this point. Pikarino's gone. Yeah, beats are gone. That is a kill. Oh, Aegis?
Oh, there's the Aegis just to save it. Nope. Silence shall shut that down. StreakUp is back right side of the map. Fire Giant being taken by the Solar Scarabs. AJ, where did it go wrong for the Tanuki?
It's 18 minutes, 19 minutes into the game, and they have Fire Giant. They've broken into a Phoenix. This is a procession, by the way. This isn't a ascension for them. This is literally them being handed their way into the lower bracket finals for a chance to qualify for Worlds. Yomi Tanuki rolling out the red carpet right now. And I've got to be honest, it does come back out to that draft. You took a risk on it. You had to take a risk because it's the final game that you could lose and then go home. The risk has almost certainly, guaranteed, not paid off.
Yomi Tanuki rolled the dice and came up snake eyes. But the game is not over yet, AJ. As much as everyone here thinks it, it's not quite over. There is still the case that we have to get through into the base of the Tanuki and watch the Scarabs take down that Titan. I really don't see how the Tanuki get back into it, especially with Silence taking negative damage throughout all of this. Finally gets reduced to about half HP with the entirety of the Yomi Tanuki smacking them. But again, split push on the right-hand side. Apreel takes down that tier 2 tower, has a runic bomb in pocket, and is even threatening Phoenix.
No, but he's going to back off right here. They're trying to swarm around and just to try and get something. He will fight this. I bet good money. If he knows the fact that French Emperor is rotating around, if he's not there, he will fight it.
Oh, gets silenced out, so has to take the fight. Choices be made for him. Here comes the piercing moonlight, nice beads and Aegis as well. Apreel going absolutely nuts, dashes away from that special delivery. And now, French Emperor trying to back to base. Apreel dashes all the way back to safety faster than you can see him. While all the while, Solar Scarabs have taken the left Phoenix, they take the mid Phoenix, and they are just about dusting off their hands, getting ready to take the third.
Yeah, I don't mind that play, though, from Yomi Tanuki, just to try and get Apreel, just try and get something going right for them. 2 kills have happened, both of which got onto French Emperor, both of which were on to iSilenced the support. Everybody else with clean bills of health for the Solar Scarabs as they look to push down this third and final Phoenix. They were focused on so long on that right-hand side, we didn't even see this left-hand side Phoenix go down.
Yeah, didn't see it at all. Right side Phoenix goes down. You may as well not have seen that either, because the Yomi Tanuki all sat in the base. Apart from French Emperor, who's just trying to find these last couple of 11s. Calvìn goes in, gets a pluck, but has to immediately go under the water, but gets smashed down. A house lands on top of his head. Wicked Witch from the East style, and now finds themselves all the way sent into their own fountain. There's a Jormungandr ult coming through. Echrome uses that mounted archery. The mid lane has gone through everyone. Now French Emperor trying to pick up whatever they can find, but it will be nothing. Unstoppable is Echrome. A deicide for the Solar Scarabs, 21-2, really making a massive statement that they do not belong in this losers bracket.
If the first game was a warm-up, Solar Scarabs have shown that they're definitely hot right now. I mean, absolutely just batting them aside like they were nothing in that game. I mean, Yomi Tanuki came in with an unorthodox draft in that game, and it just did not pay off whatsoever.
Yeah, it's the type of style I'd like to see. You know, if it's not been working, if standard Smite doesn't work for you, bring something else to the table. It just really didn't get going. I'm not sure if it wasn't quite what they wanted, not quite practiced. The good news is, AJ, it's not my job to break that down. We'll send it to the guys who will break that down as we head on back to the desk.
That's right, it's a 2-0 here for the Solar Scarabs on an elimination set. They send the Yomi Tanuki packing, and they will now move on to figure out who their opponent's going to be between the Hex Mambo and the Niflheim Warg Solar Scarabs. They take the pacing of game number 1, and they somehow made it faster. I don't know how they did it, considering that it was in game 1 we had, what, a 10-minute quadra kill under a tier 1 tower in duo. And yet somehow the Solar Scarabs were able to outmatch that same level of pacing. This Mercury, which is a late game scaling god, was getting online even faster. The Solar Scarabs really found a way to turn on the Jets here in this second game.
Yeah, I think both of it is the defensive style that the Yomi Tanuki had in the second game was not nearly as strong as game 1. And then it seemed like the Scarabs were kind of done messing around and they wanted to get this game done quickly because 10 minutes, they were up like 7,000, 8,000 or something like that. And they just kept snowballing it faster and faster and faster. And like you said, Mercury got online. Deathwalker in this counter pick, which is something we didn't mention on the P's and B's, but this Yor made it really hard for this Opwash to actually live these ganks because he just destroys the body so quickly. And then you're looking at all the lanes just slowly falling behind. I mean, Silenced was up 6 levels. We saw level 20 Echrome, and Calvìn was still level 10. So there was a massive discrepancy across the board. And this is a very dominant game by the Scarabs. And if they want a chance to make it, become top 2 and make it to that SEC versus SPL play-in for Worlds, you've got to play like this. So if we see this again from the Scarabs, they're going to be deadly no matter which team they play against, whether it's the Wargs or the Mambo.
I think this little fight here is the final nail in the coffin where Echrome takes 2v1, gets the first kill, partner shows up, gets the second kill immediately afterward, and then from that point on, those last 2-3 minutes just continue to snowball in favor of the Solar Scarabs. I mean, you look up, and this is just a bloodbath. I mean, 23,000 gold at that point. They are up over 1,000 gold more than they are a minute up against the Yomi Tanuki. This is almost what you would have expected to see from this team throughout the entire phase. I mean, this level of dominance from the Solar Scarabs, when you have the veteranship of Zyrhoes, of Deathwalker, and then you just have kind of this comeuppance with apreel in the jungle, and then you still have that solid dual lane. This is the Solar Scarabs I think a lot of people were expecting to see this phase. Good for them to turn on the Jets at least where it mattered, but maybe we could have wanted a little bit more of that earlier on in the year too.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can't agree with you that we could have seen this Scarabs earlier in the tournament, but, I mean, this is the time to turn it on. This is the game, like we said, this is the game that matters the most because you lose this, you're out. So, unfortunately for the Yomi Tanuki, they are now out, but on the opposite side, the Scarabs now have a really good chance. They just need to win one more set, and then they make it in.
End of the road for the Tanuki, but still one more chance for the Solar Scarabs. We take a look at our bracket. You'll see that we only have 2 matches left here for the European SCC playoffs. Hex Mambo, Niflheim Wargs will be your next match. Winner of that goes to the SWC group stage as your EU SCCC number 1. Loser of that, not out. Instead, will play against the Solar Scarabs for that second and final chance to go to the SWC group stage and be your second seed. Moving on into there. And then, again, a big difference, and got to mention at least where these teams kind of fall in line with the qualification. Winner of this Hex Mambo and Warg set, they move into the bracket with the Ravens and the Gladiators. Loser of that one, and then subsequently the winner of our final set of the day, falls into a bracket with the Kings and the Hounds. So more than anything, it's okay, kind of a pick your poison scenario. Do you want to play against the lower seed and the higher seed in the Ravens and the Gladiators, or do you want to play against kind of those middle of those remaining SPL teams with the Kings and the Hounds? Not necessarily that you would, maybe throw a game to get to that position, but that kind of puts it into perspective of what these teams are still fighting for with these last couple matches.
Yeah, and on top of that, 2 teams make it out of that. So Ravens, top team, the 5th seed out of that, the next grouping. They're considered the strongest for a reason. They're number 5, and there's one other team from that group that can make it through. So if you do win this, that is what your prize is.
So an opportunity to make it into that first group. Who will be the first team to qualify? Well, we'll find out in our second set of the day right after this break.
Plain on my wrist, for real. LV on my chick, for real. Waco taking risks, for real. Went through hell to get to this, for real. I'm not puzzle making lists, for real. I stay low and stack my chips, for real. You keep looking for a flip, for real. That's not wealth, that's rich, for real.